Hey guys, Josh, alcoholic. I was thinking when I was new in, when I was, hey Pat, when I was new in AA, I would have never thought I would get to come talk to you guys. I think it's cool, but when I was new in AA, I thought by this point in my sobriety I'd be a recurring speaker at the World Convention. So this is better than that, I think. I don't know. When I start telling my story, I probably self-willfully always kind of say out loud, it's not my parents' fault that I'm an alcoholic. And I say that because I think it's a good message to people. I think if there's new people here, they can, you know, spend a lot of time in recovery, doing psychotherapy, and then get to the steps and figure out it ain't them. And so I say that for that reason. And because Bill's story starts out, war fever ran high, not my mom ignored me when I had a fever that one time. So, it ain't them, but I think early on, it doesn't start out with me coming out of the womb and pouring alcohol down my throat. But I remember I was watching this Behind the Actors Theater or whatever it is, and Dave Chappelle was on there, and he talked about when he showed up at kindergarten, he showed up and he felt like everybody there knew each other except for him. And I thought, holy crap, I remember when I showed up at kindergarten, I was walking and I got to the door and I froze and thought everybody here knows each other except for me. And I just was kind of in a panic about that. And I think, to this day, I was thinking I'm glad I got all, a bunch of buddies here. But on the way up, I was thinking, who will I sit with when I'm spending the weekend here? I get uncomfortable about that stuff. I'm worried that I'm not going to fit in. Like some ancillary friend that I see in meetings, well, can't really sit with them because I don't hang out with them. So I still have this apart from kind of feeling to this day. So, my sobriety date, just to show, well into sobriety, is September 18th or 19th, 2004, and I'm still on the road. John says, I might be halfway there, and I'd say I doubt it. But so I kind of grew up like that. I felt like I was apart from crowds and other people, and even my family. And at one point, my stepdad married he wasn't even a stepdad, he was just some guy that my mom left me with, but he got married and she had some sons and they were older than me, and I thought, okay, I want to fit in with these guys because then I'll be hanging out with older people. Like every year I'd go to school and I'd have to, like, it would be the first lunch break of the year and I would just walk into a crowd of people and just start, hey, how's it going? Like people that I would know, but they were, people that I wasn't friends with the year before because I felt so uncomfortable. I didn't want to go hang out with those people again. So I thought, if I get in with these older siblings, I'll be cool because I'm hanging out with older people, and then the people my age will think I'm cool, and then I'll be comfortable. So I remember, the first day that we moved in with that family, the youngest of the boys said, "Do you smoke weed?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I smoke weed." I never had smoked weed before in my life, and all the time, bro. And so I smoked some weed, and the first time you smoke it, you don't feel anything. I don't know, a lot of people say that, some people don't, man. But I remember acting like I felt something, like he was playing some Dio or AC/DC or something, and I was just totally acting like I was feeling it. But I eventually started feeling it and started doing that, and so I wanted to fit in with these guys, and they say, "Josh, go to Miller's Market and steal us some Bacardi 151. Okay. No problem, man. I'll go steal some 151. And I go in and steal the 151 and try and keep up with these guys. I was probably 13 years old, and I remember I would just be so drunk I couldn't even roll over to puke. I would just puke on myself, and they'd be like, "Josh, you got beans on your shoulder." And I swear to God that I remember thinking not these words, but what I was feeling was, I'm fitting in, man. Like, they're laughing with me. And so I kept it up, man. We'd go rob bars, coolers, and I'd hang with these guys. We'd go rip people out. Hey, Josh, have you ever done a line of methamphetamine? Yeah, man, I've done that. Okay, here you go, man. Okay. So, that was just kind of my introduction to drinking and drugging, and everything that came along with that with me was kind of trouble. So I got this kind of reputation because I was kind of younger. The people at my school weren't doing those things, and I kind of got a reputation. And so I thought I need to uphold this reputation. I need to act wild, man. I need to do crazy stuff. So I would go out and do crazy stuff and break the law. And I spent most of my teenage years kind of China Springs or Juvie or NYTC up in Elko, and so getting shuffled around like that. At one point I got out and there was nowhere for me to go except for my mom's, who lived in Carson City. And so I went to Carson City and I had to go to a new school, and I have trouble fitting in. And so I just walked around the school. I swear for probably 3 months I wouldn't even talk to anyone, and I'd walk around like with a huge chip on my shoulder because I didn't want to be rejected. Like, hi, oh, he didn't wave at me, I'm gonna die. And so I was very, very insecure, but I covered it up by acting like I was very secure and like I didn't care about anything. And so to kind of keep that facade up, I would just kind of act crazy, and with me that was drinking and using drugs, and I saw no problem with it. And I'd go to jail, and I'd get out and do it again because I think that that great obsession of every abnormal drinker is that I can control and enjoy my drinking. It wasn't even on the table yet. My great obsession was, I'm not going to get caught again for doing that. Like, how could you get caught doing this stuff? But I was doing so much stuff. Like, I would go into a mini market and I would just grab booze and walk out. They'd be like, hey, stop, and I would just walk out. But the cops would just come to my house because they would just look at the tape. Oh, that's Josh Pierce, man, we'll go get him right now. And if I was there, they'd get me, and if I wasn't there, then they couldn't get me. But it got worse and worse, and I started spending kind of more time getting in trouble. I was on probation from like 13 to 29, maybe beyond that. I was on probation. I had to get a court card signed. I remember having 10 years of sobriety and still getting a court card signed. Like, that's the kind of stupid stuff. It was for a licensing board, but I was the only guy with 10 years still getting a court card signed in the AA meetings. But so, like, drinking and using was the only thing on the table for me, man. There was nothing else. I was kind of miserable. I couldn't keep relationships. My friend, I don't know what separated me from my friends, but they're still out there, like, hardcore. Like, I got one of my good friends. I think he's a wet brain. I mean, he'd have to sober up long enough for me to be able to tell, but I definitely think he's probably a wet brain. I got plenty of buddies that are in prison for doing some crazy stuff, and somehow I separated myself from that. I think, what I used to tell them all the time is, if you want to quit doing meth, you just got to drink hard. Just drink. And at first you'll get a buzz and you'll think, I got to get some meth. And you'll do it, and you'll do it again and again, but eventually you'll just be a drinker and you can quit doing meth. And so that's what I did. So I kind of became separated from my friends. I couldn't keep relationships. I couldn't really keep jobs. I wound up one time, I did have some friends that lived on the Indian reservation in Carson City, this kind of older mama on the res, and she kind of took care of me sometimes. I don't even know how I wound up meeting her, but I went over there one time to steal her tent, and I go in there because I was like breaking into people's cars to get out of the rain, other people's cars. And, one time I broke into a car that it had electric windows. And so I couldn't roll the windows down. Well, yeah, I couldn't. The doors were broken on both sides of the car, and I couldn't roll the windows down to open the door to get out of the car. So I was stuck in there all night, and I thought, I'm going to go steal that lady's tent. And so I went to her house, and I said, hey, can I borrow your tent? I'm going camping. And she said, Josh, you can put the tent in the backyard. And I thought, oh, thank God. And so she let me throw the tent in the backyard, and I got a job finally, man. I used to think I was a big time drug dealer, and I was pretty ballsy about it until I get caught. And I remember one time asking a lawyer that might be he doesn't remember, but I told my public defender, hey, go ask that guy if I snitch off somebody, if I can get away with it. I was probably going to have to do 30 days or something. I was snitched on anybody to get out of doing 2 days in jail. But, so, I'm living in a tent, and, the sales thing isn't going very well, and I'm living off Little Debbie's snack cakes that I can steal from and I would go and steal dried up mushrooms from Rayleigh's, the ones that I guess you cook with these dried up mushrooms, maybe put them in soup or something, and I would sell those to people so I could get money, so I could go drink. And it was just hard living, man. And I got this job, and it was the perfect job for me because I didn't have a car, and I lived in Carson City, and the job was in Lake Tahoe. And the guy that would pick me up once or twice a week. So I would go, thank you, Doug. I got white stuff right there. And so I would go and I'd sit out on the freeway waiting for this guy to pick me up, and then he wouldn't pick me up, and I go, yes. And, some days he would pick me up, but I guess to me that's kind of significant because once I got a job, I was living in this tent, and somehow, some way I kind of kept... Well, I'm a really good liar, and so I would keep... I've had a job ever since then, and that was pretty good for me. So I got a job, and I got a check, and I lived in a tent, and I went and spent my check on booze. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And then I got another check, and I went and spent the check on booze, and I did it again and again. I was living in a tent, and the only thing I'd spend my money on is getting loaded over and over. So stayed in the tent for a while. Eventually I got into this little apartment, and the apartment, I'd say that was kind of, I think that a bottom is an emotional thing. There are plenty of people that come to AA with watches, but for me, I was in this apartment, man, and I remember thinking, I would kind of wail out loud to the Lord, man, God, please kill me, because I was so lonely and alone. And I remember I'd have this racquetball, and I'd throw it against the wall, kill me, like, just please. And then it would be time to kind of go out for the night, and I'd go cruise up to Reno. And so I'd, typical weekend for me, Friday night, show up as soon as they'll cut the checks at work, grab the check, run to the casino, get the 2 drink tokes, go to the bar, get the, whatever most powerful or potent kind of mixture of alcohol I could get with a drink toke. And then, now, I'm starting to get a buzz, and then I'm starting to spin the check. And I think, okay, but I got to get a girlfriend, and I'm not going to get a girlfriend from this casino. I got to go to Reno where all the hot girls are, right? I don't know if y'all are from Reno or not, but so I'd go home, and I'd get like a little 6-pack just to kind of keep me going before I go out. And I had this big blue cup, and it's so funny, man. I understand physiology now, but I didn't understand it then. So I thought I'd drink 2 of those big blue cups because I know I'm not drinking nothing but booze for several days from this point forward, so I better catch up on my water drinking. So I drink 2 cups of water to last me for the next several days while I was just going to go out and drink. So I'd drink the 6-pack, and I'd be sitting on the couch, and I remember like passing out, and I'd be smacking my face like, all right, dude, you still have to go out, man. And So I'd hit the road and I'd jump in my Bronco, man. It had a one speaker. You couldn't even understand what the music was playing. That was, you know how they have the magnets on the back, so the floorboard was kind of ripped up and the magnet was stuck to the metal part of the floorboard, so the speaker wasn't rolling around in the car. And I'd fly up to Reno. I'd get 2 St. Pauli girls, the tall bottles, on for the ride to Reno, and then I'd get to the whatever bar I thought was my girlfriend was going to be at, and then I'd walk in and I'd be like, Jägermeister, Kamikazes, Jack and Cokes, double shot of Jack, gin and tonics. Like, just I didn't stick to something. I just was like, something else, and stuff would happen, dude. Like, there was a Dairy Queen downtown where all the cholos hung out and stuff, and I'd wake up laying in the parking lot of Dairy Queen going, how the hell did I get here, surrounded by cholos and trying to act tough like I like to do, or like be woken up on 4th Street downtown with people going, dude, hey, wake up, man, the cops are going to arrest you if you don't kind of wake up. And I'd be like, where am I? Where's my car keys, dude? Like, why am I covered in mud? There wasn't even raining around here. Why is there mud? I'd walk around looking for the mud puddle because I have nothing else to do. I don't know where my car is, don't know where the keys are. If I knew where my car is, and so, that particular night, hey, wake up, bro. Cops are going to get you. And so I wake up and I go to the bar where they hose it down between 4 and 6 when they close the bars, and hey, did you find any keys? No. Okay, well, I got $6, so I'll go to the cigarette store over here and buy some booze, and call my sister, hey, go to the car dealership where I bought this used car and see if they have an extra key and bring it to me. So, I used to sit at mini markets and gamble and drink quarts of beer and be like, if they say something, I'm going to go crazy. But I would also think, like, who cares? Like, I've never seen anyone sit in the mini market. I guess people probably do. There's probably people in this room. Pat probably used to do that. But I just thought, you better not say anything to me, and I need to drink, and I have nowhere else to go. So here I am, man. Leave me alone. And so sitting out there, and then my sister showed up and had a key, and I jump in the car. Like, what better thing to do after a night like that? And I remember driving through Washoe and just passing out, waking up, people going and stuff, and I'm like, what? I won't fall asleep now. Pass out again. And I remember I passed out and woke up one time, and the dotted line was in the middle of my truck, and I look in the rear view. I instinctively knew to hit the blinker like I'm just changing lanes, and look in the rear view, and I'm like cutting off a highway patrol. I guess people probably called the police saying some guy's sleeping going 80. I used to also think the less time I'm on the road, the less chance I'll get a DUI. So I would drive with the speedometer pegged all the way as far as it could go, because I probably won't get a DUI if I can hurry up and get off the road. So just like, and then this piece of crap Bronco that I used to have with the music blaring. So every Friday night kind of started out like that, but by the end of the weekend, you never knew what was going to happen. You don't know if you're going to wake up here, there, know where your truck is, know who you're with. I'd come to in the middle of Nevada and go, am I headed towards home or am I headed away from home? It's dark out here. There's no signs. It's just a road. Should I turn around? Should I keep going? So, living like that, it got me to AA, so I guess it did all right. So by the time last thing I got arrested for, I went to an AM/PM. It was like I think it was like maybe Valentine's Day or something. And I went to the bar where I thought my girlfriend might be, and she wasn't there. And so I went to this AM/PM, and I just asked to use the bathroom, and they said no. And so what do I do when people say no to me? I throw a huge fit, fuck you, blah blah. And so I went outside to pee on the building, and then the cops pulled up, and so I got arrested in sobriety once too, but that's the last time I got arrested drunk. And the judge, man, that judge he was sick of me, dude, but he liked me too, like my whole life, dude. The principals, the teachers, everybody kind of thought, Josh, you're cool, man, but you gotta chill out, you know what I mean? And the judge was cool, and he told me enough times, if I see you again, dude, bring a toothbrush or whatever, and if I see you again, bring your toothbrush. Next time I see you, you know what I mean? And they meant it this time. And so, you know, like even my probation officer who liked me was like, dude, let's just send you up to prison, and you can like reset and you can get out and start over. And it looked like that's the way it was going, but my mom, who worked at BHS in Carson City, I guess called my PO and told my PO about this outpatient program down there, and my PO kind of fell for it, actually. I never got sober until after I got off probation, after I did IOP. I went to IOP drunk every time. If I wasn't drunk, I'm in there like this. But I met this lady in IOP, dude. Her name is Gay, and no one cared about me, dude, for a long time. No one cared about me, and this lady cared about me, and I wanted to nurture that relationship. And so she showed an interest in me. I'm not the only person that has gay in their story, that's for sure. I've got some good friends who would say the same thing if they were up here. And so she showed an interest in me, and part of the deal of keeping that relationship going, I felt, was, okay, I'll go to some AA meetings. Zero intention on getting clean and sober. And by this time I was in this crappy motel. It was disgusting, man. You could see that water was always dripping down the back wall of my bathroom, which was probably directly underneath the bathroom upstairs. And I had 2 cats living in this motel with me, and I was never really there because I was always out trying to find my girlfriend somewhere. And so I was in this crappy motel. But I go to AA meeting, and my PO always looking for me at this motel, so I'm either hiding in the motel, just like scared to breathe, because they can hear you breathing, right? If your PO comes to the door, like. So I never wanted to be there, man, because I also, when they're knocking on your door and you're trying not to let them hear you breathe, you think they're going to kick the door in. They know I'm in here, and I was really paranoid about things, and so I'd never be there, and like I had nowhere else to go for the summer. I spent that last summer at the park way back up against the fence, and I literally, I never really realized this, but I had the brown paper bag around my bottle because I didn't want the sun to hit the bottle, because the cops will see the flash of the sun, and then they'll raid me in the back of the park. So I'd sit in the back of the park by myself, and there were these dudes that, they have a bad rap in Carson City. You guys might have them where you're at there, these Dungeons and Dragons live role play people, and they make swords and stuff. Did you used to do that, Josh? Yeah, I did. One of those guys? Yeah, still am. Yeah. Well, wait till you. So they had these foam swords and stuff, and they were like the biggest dorks in Carson City, and I'd be sitting there going, I see weapons sitting on the grass. Why don't they ask me if I want to play with them? I was like, ask me, man. I want to play with you guys. And so sit in the back of the park, dude, and then it started getting cold, and so that drove me to AA. That's the only other place I could be, was AA meetings. They have them all day, blah, blah, blah. It was at the old Alano Club in Carson City. And so I'd leave my motel room, and I'd get I'm only going to drink a 16-ounce can of Budweiser today. And I'd go to the AM PM, grab the can of Budweiser, walk down the street, drinking the Budweiser, because I'm so paranoid. That's what paranoid people do, is they act crazy and do weird stuff to get arrested instead of acting normal and cool. And And then I'd go to an AA meeting, and then I'd walk back. Okay, I'll get one more 16-ounce Budweiser, and I'd go and get another 16-ounce Budweiser. Now I'm ready to go, and then I'd go party, and then the next day, I'd walk back and forth to these AA meetings, drinking all the time, just because I didn't want my PO showing up at this motel that I was at. I still don't know if it's a motel or a hotel. Are hotels nice or motels nice? It's just shitty ones. And then I remember, man, I don't remember who it was or what kind of meeting it was, but someone talked about being lonely, and I listened. I was like, dude, I was so lonely. Like, sometimes people go run and shoot up a school or whatever, and I think, dude, I bet you $1 million I know almost how that person felt, dude. I was struggling hard. I had this recurring daydream that I was going to get my ex-girlfriend's boyfriend and blow his head off and put him in my Bronco and push it off a cliff and light it on fire, and everyone would think I was dead. And then I'd hide out for a couple weeks until my funeral, and then I'd go to my funeral with a shotgun and I'd blow them all away. Like, all the time, this is what I'm daydreaming about. And this guy talked about being lonely, and I thought, fuck, I'm lonely too. And he talked about how AA helped him with that, so I started listening. And then, 3 years later, I get sober, you know what I mean? Because I think in AA, if I could just come to the meetings and get a little bit of what you guys talk about and still be able to control and enjoy my drinking, the great obsession of every abnormal drinker, then everything will be a little bit better. That's all I wanted, was for it to get a little bit better. I was going to quit drinking as soon as life got a little bit better, except for I was drinking, so it was never going to happen. But so I kept going to meetings. I kept kind of using AA as some kind of way to battle this loneliness that I had. And I would give up a little bit of something at a time, you know what I mean? Like, I stopped doing methamphetamines, and then I would try and control my drinking, and then I would quit drinking, and I would just smoke marijuana. And you guys didn't even need to know about that because you didn't understand my higher power in me. Like, we got a thing going, and it's up to me how that goes, and you don't need to know if I'm smoking weed. I'm a Rastafarian. And I remember the moment that I don't know if it was Wikipedia back then, but I was Wikipediaing Rastafarianism and found out they don't like white people that much. Oh, what am I going to be now, man? So I kept playing, dude, and I would get a chip, and I would secretary a meeting loaded, and I would be a service and do all this stuff. I remember one Thanksgiving I secretaried the meeting loaded, like it was an NA meeting, and I was sitting down in the basement of this church, and then no one's showing up. It was Thanksgiving. Oh, maybe no one's going to be here. I can go home and get more loaded. And then people started showing up or whatever, and then the next year I secretaried an AA meeting loaded, and my share was, last Thanksgiving I secretaried a meeting loaded, and I'm so glad I don't have to live that way anymore. Like, I believed it. John talks about you could put me on a lie detector test and I would pass the lie detector test. I believed my crap so much and thought you guys didn't know. I was the worst kind of newcomer, man. I thought I knew everything, dude. I think, I don't know why people liked me at all, because, like, if someone was sharing something I didn't like, I'd be going, over and over and louder until they would stop, or people would be sharing, I just start clapping right in the middle. And they'd be like, is he clapping for me, or is he being a dick? And so I was just the worst kind of newcomer, and I was lying about my sobriety, and at some point I kind of thought, I mean, I wasn't very content. I didn't have a quiet mind and peaceful heart while I was doing all this. I was more scared, smoking a doobie, driving down the street, of getting caught by an AA member than I was of getting caught by a cop. So I was constantly paranoid, because you see you guys like everywhere, and it's a small town, and I'm loaded all the time, taking chips, wondering why no one wants me to sponsor them. And I kind of at some point thought, what if I spend the next 20 years here in AA and don't get what you guys are talking about in AA? I believe my lies so much. I'd be at my friend's house and they'd be putting cocaine on a joint, and I just would kind of look away and act like I didn't know they were putting cocaine on the joint, so that way I didn't, I'm clean from cocaine. I didn't even know it was on here. But I thought, what if I don't get what you guys are talking about in AA? What if I only come to AA and lie about stuff, and I'm hanging out with people and going to meals with people and going to meetings, and we're all getting together 3, 4, 5 times a week, and as far as I know, I'm the only person that's not even clean and sober there. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna freaking try it, dude. Might as well try it. And so I took this little box of paraphernalia that I had to my neighbor's house and knocked on his door, and I said, hey, dude, you can have all this stuff, and I don't want it back anymore. And if you want to get clean and sober and go to a meeting, dude, we can hang out. But otherwise, good luck with whatever. And he was my direct next door neighbor. I never talked to him again. But I've been sober ever since that day. I got back from a Beastie Boys concert. As soon as the concert's over, I'm getting clean. As soon as I cross back into Nevada, I'm getting clean. Blah blah blah. And so I did that, and I spent a long time in AA, like on the ground. God, please relieve me of this obsession, please. And then I was dating a girl in AA, so I'd hide my weed. You'd pull my bottom dresser out, and the weed's all under there, and I'd crawl over there after that prayer, and God, please relieve me of this obsession. Well, you didn't do it, and obviously God's will, and I love that I did all those prayers and it didn't happen, because I've been clean and sober ever since I gave that guy my stuff and made a commitment to sobriety. Like, I took a physical action to promote sobriety in my life. I've been clean and sober ever since. So that was a good lesson for a guy like me, and so I got clean, man, and it was a good deal. I eventually married that girl that I had a few. She didn't even know I was loaded. We were together for a year, and she never even caught on. But we eventually got married, and we had a little kid, and the little kid's been the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And but I'm clean, I'm sober, I'm going to lots of meetings, I'm talking to lots of people on the phone all the time, I'm sharing in meetings. If you got a problem, you just call somebody in AA. It's like popping a pill, man. You feel better, and it was hella working for me, except for I had to call someone every 10 minutes because I was just pissed off, man. I was still, clapping people down in the meetings and blah, 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 and I remember periods thinking my teeth were going to break because I just was so mad all the time about so much stuff. And I call somebody, and like one dude told me, what I do when I'm pissed off like that is I just go make a sandwich, because then your hands are full and you don't hit anything. And I thought, well, I just had a sandwich, so I guess I could make one. I'm not hungry. Someone told me, get a pillow and just beat the shit out of the pillow. Just beat it and beat it and beat it until all the resentment's gone. And, hang up I guess I talk to guys in AA, right? Hang up a punching bag in the garage and just take a baseball bat I didn't do that thing. It might have worked, but people would say, read People of the Lie, so I'd read People of the Lie. People would say, read Road Less Traveled, I'd read Road Less Traveled. People would say, read all these extracurricular books, and I'd read all these extracurricular books, and I'd still be so pissed off. And I take this vitamin, and it really helps me to recognize when I'm starting to get angry. Like I recognize when I'm getting angry. I'm always angry. I don't think I need a vitamin. Maybe I did need a Vicodin, but so like the point is, I was talking to all these people in AA, man. I was talking to a ton of people in AA, and no one was saying, Well, let's look at what the book has to say about that. Nobody. And so I'd even go to people that in the meetings, they were stalwart, talk about the inventory, and I go up to them after the meeting and say, so I think I need to do an inventory. Okay, well, write down everyone you're pissed off at and meet me at my house. And so I'd write it down, and I'd go meet them at their house and read off everyone I'm pissed off at. And that was it. And so I didn't know, man. I was lost, dude. And, well, I didn't know I was lost even. I had no idea. And then, you know, one Sunday I was at this meeting at the fire station in Carson City. And my sponsor, John, was there, and he told his story. And he was new to town, and I didn't like him because, like, he was popular. The new person's always popular, and I'm supposed to be the most popular. And thank God Scott Capistran. Thank God Scott left the city. He was the most popular. But so I didn't like this John guy because, like, everyone thinks he's so spiritual and awesome and shit, and I'm supposed to be the most spiritual, awesome person that's yelling at everybody in the meetings and, you know, pounding on the tables how I read People of the Lie. I've read The Road Less Traveled. You know, even Bill Wilson said a spiritual kindergarten. I know about The Road Less Traveled and stuff. So this guy's sharing his story, and what I heard in his story was at 10 years sobriety, man, you know, I won't point him out in here now, but, you know, he wanted to drive off an off-ramp on his way to work because he couldn't handle it. He had 10 years sobriety, and life was bad, and what he did was he got a sponsor and started working the steps with the guy. The guy worked the steps with him out of the book, and so I went up to him after the meeting, and I said, hey, man, I think I need to do that. Even though I thought I had been doing it, man. And he said, okay, Tuesday, let's meet at the 12 and 12 meeting at the happy hour group in Carson City. And we'll go out to dinner after that. And so I met him there, and he bought a big book, and we went out to dinner. I always laughed because I never brought my big book. I always thought, and I don't know if this is what he was meant to do, but he would slide the big book over and be like, what's that say? And I don't know if, you know, he talks about how maybe that's how his sponsor did it with him, but I never even considered bringing a big book to meet with my sponsor to read the big book. I just show up. Free meal. I always feel better after I hang out with you. So we met at that happy hour meeting, and then we went out to dinner. And I had a sponsor who, you know, I'd call him. You know, I'm pissed off all the time, so I call him all the time. And his recommendations or suggestions was, you sound like a dry drunk. And that's it. And so I sit down with John, and I tell him, dude, I'm pissed at my sponsor. And I tell him the whole story, and he goes, well, let's see what the book says. And then he, you know, opens the book to pages 60 through 63, where it talks about, you know, the reason why I'm restless, irritable, and discontent is because I'm this actor trying to run the whole show, arranging lights, camera, scenery, and ballet, and the rest of the players in my own way. And if they would do exactly the way I wish they would do, the show would be freaking great. And he said, you think you're writing a script like Shakespeare, and they're playing out a script like Three's Company. So that made sense to me. I thought, yeah, and if they would just do as I wished, the show would have been great. And so he pointed out to me how that's not going to happen, and that's the whole reason why I'm restless, irritable, and discontented, you know, 24 hours at a time unless I do certain things. So we went through the prayer. We did the sick man prayer, and, you know, I like to put it like this because I think this is literally what happened. By the time I got my dinner that night, I had been shown everything that has given me the life that I have today, man. My whole entire life changed from 6:30 at the end of the meeting to the time I got my dinner at, you know, 7 o'clock or whatever, just because some guy showed me what was in the book. And I can't believe that, man. I think I kind of had kind of a rough life, and I sure didn't make it any easier on myself. And I still kind of don't. But, man, I got a sponsor who works out of the big book, and my life's freaking good, man. We we had a kid, we had a divorce, we, got a new place, so, outside of my head, my entire life is very good today. And much better than it was when I was trying to stay loaded and convince you guys that I was a spiritual giant, and much better than it was when I wasn't coming around AA at all. And so, I've been talking to John. I think I've called him every day except for maybe 20 days. I don't know, that might be more then, but for 13 years, and it's the same stuff, man. I call him with the same stuff every day. This person isn't doing things the way I think they should. And it's so funny. Like, I could almost recite pages 60 through 63. So you would think I would, by this time, like, just have it figured out, but that I don't think it works that way, because AA would be a group where one person sits at a table and you'd walk in with your core card and say, hey, I'm here for the AA. And they'd say, all right, memorize pages 60 through 63, and that's all you need to do for the rest of your life. Have a nice life. And it would be nice if it was that easy, but it's so funny. Like, I still call and say, this person isn't doing what I think they should be doing, and I don't even see it. And it's not like, I know, I'm trying to run the show and blah, blah, blah. I literally call and try and convince him, like, look at what they're doing. And he's just like, well, I don't know, man. We've probably had the same conversation probably 10,000 times. And all the other thousands of times have been on the dang voicemail or whatever. But so I like the idea that, maybe I'm halfway there. I sure don't feel like it unless I get around my AA buddies and get out of my head a little bit and realize, dude, my life's pretty good, man. It's much better than it was when I was drinking and using. So I sponsor some guys too, and that's pretty good. I've sponsored a guy that that is tough for me to listen to sometimes, and I just called him back on the way up here, and even though I don't want to call him back and I don't want to listen to him, I was kind of in some self-pity on the way up here, and I thought, I'll call that guy. And I called him, and the self-pity kind of went away. I didn't have to mention to him. I think I saw his wife buying drugs today at the AM/PM. I don't know if I should tell him or not. I'll ask John after the meeting, but so AA's AA's been pretty good for a guy like me. I sure do kind of appreciate it, but I'm afraid that what if I was in some different town where there wasn't a guy like John to take me through the book the way he took me through the book, because I was struggling with that. And so, I try my best to do what John suggests. I sponsor other guys. I don't tell them to read People of the Lie or anything like that. I kind of stick to the book, and we got a good fellowship down in Carson City. This is the, we called it the Jaywalkers. Some people here go there, and we got a meeting at my house, and there's a meeting at another friend of mine, his house, Thursday nights. And sometimes I'm driving to those meetings thinking, why me? And I'll be in the middle of those meetings with, that sore part of your cheeks from smiling so much. And I just think, thank God for these guys in AA. And so I hope I stick around and keep doing it. I just want to say Dan in my share, because I know he appreciates that. And, I want to say thank you to John for, changing my life and the time it took from the end of the meeting to me getting that dinner and to this day. So I appreciate it, and that's all I got. Thanks.